a shot across centuries. What if the first sniper's bullet was made of wood and bone? Long before gunpowder cracked the silence of battle, there were warriors who could kill from so far away their victims never saw the danger coming. Two of them, divided by 1,000 years and a continent, fought with the same cold principle: strike before being seen. On the Eurasian steppe, a lone rider halts on a grassy ridge. His horse exhales steam into the dawn air. He draws a bow shaped like the crescent moon, its horn and sinew groaning under tension. The arrow leaves without a sound, until a man collapses on the plain below. Centuries later, under an English sky heavy with mist, the air is ripped by the hiss of yew bowstrings. Hundreds of arrows rise in dark arcs and fall like rain. In moments, the enemy's charge becomes a tangle of the dead and dying. Two worlds, two weapons, one ancient truth that victory belongs to the unseen hand. The steppe's silent hunters, they came from nowhere and vanished into the horizon. The Scythians lived in a world without walls, an endless ocean of grass and wind. Here, the bow was not just a weapon, it was a birthright. From childhood, they learned to ride as if born in the saddle, to fire at full gallop with the composure of a hunter stalking prey. Their bows were small enough to use on horseback, yet powerful enough to pierce armor at 150 paces. Wood, horn, sinew, layered in tension, crafted to survive winter frost and summer heat. When the Persian king Darius marched against them, his armies never saw the battle they came for. The Scythians appeared in the distance, loosed their arrows, then dissolved into the plains before a counterattack could form. The Persians called it war. The Scythians called it survival. And survival meant patience, mobility, and the willingness to kill from the shadows. But what happens when an enemy learns to turn patience into discipline and meets the archer on their own terms? The longbowman's reign. If the Scythian arrow was the predator's strike, the English longbow was the storm. In the damp green heart of medieval England, yew trees grew with a slow patience that mirrored the men who would one day draw them. The longbow was taller than its wielder, a weapon of raw power demanding a lifetime of training, and a body remade by the strain. On the fields of Crécy and Agincourt, the longbow turned mud into a killing ground. Stakes in the earth broke cavalry charges. High ground gave the archers command of the sky. Then came the signal, and the air itself seemed to shred. Chroniclers wrote that nights fell as leaves in autumn. The noise was not a single volley, but the ceaseless tearing of thousands of arrows through the wind. Discipline, not speed. Massed fire, not solitude. Yet, like the Scythian, the longbowman's creed was the same. Kill before the enemy can touch you. Anatomy of a killer's tool. Two bows, two philosophies. The Scythian's was curved and compact, a predator's claw, designed for sudden strikes on the move. The English longbow was tall and unbending, like the wall of spears it defended. The composite bow of the steppe was an engineering marvel, storing energy far beyond its size. It could be loosed while retreating, the arrow striking over a shoulder without breaking pace, the dreaded Parthian shot. The longbow, by contrast, required space and strength, a drawn yew stave bending like a tree in the wind, loosing shafts that could reach twice the distance of most bows. In open battle, it ruled the horizon. On horseback, it was useless. Both demanded years of devotion. Both punished weakness. Both made their master feared. But the weapon is only half the sniper's art. The rest is in the mind of the sniper. Distance gives safety and demands perfection. The Scythian learned to read the grass like a map, to sense wind shifts in the lift of a bird's wing. His moment to kill might come after hours of shadowing prey, waiting for a heartbeat of stillness. The English archer stood in line, but his judgment was just as sharp. He learned to see the moment a charge would break, to loose when the enemy's will was already faltering. Both carried the burden of expectation. The Scythian bore the honor of his clan, each kill a defense of their way of life. The longbowman was the king's investment, bound by law to practice every week, his skill a pillar of the realm's survival. For each, a single mistake meant death, not always their own, but the death of those who depended on them. And yet, even the perfect shot cannot hold back the tide of change. When the sky went dark, For the Scythians, decline began when enemies learned to outlast the arrow storm. Macedonian pikes reached where horses could not. Roman discipline absorbed the first strike and crushed the retreat. The English longbow fell to a different doom. At Castillon in 1453, the thundering guns of the French rendered the bow silence obsolete. Steel-tipped arrows were no match for iron shot. And yet, in their final days, both warriors remained unchanged in spirit. The Scythian still vanished into the steppe, leaving only fear in his wake. The longbowman still stood in the rain, drawing the bowstring to his ear even as the sound of cannon fire rolled over the field. The age of the silent killer was ending, but its shadow was only beginning to grow. Parallel shadows, 1,000 years apart, and yet their stories almost rhyme. The Scythians' war was fought in motion, hit, vanish, survive. The longbowmen's war was fought in formation, hold, fire, endure. One was a solitary predator, the other part of a living machine. And yet both lived by the same creed. Remain unseen, strike first, and leave nothing but the dead to tell the tale. It is in this shared creed that their kinship lies, not in their bows, nor their battlefields, but in the quiet, lethal patience that defines the sniper's soul. But what legacy does that soul leave for the world that came after? Echoes in the crosshairs. Modern snipers carry rifles and scope their targets through glass. But the principle is unchanged. Patience, precision, the art of ending a life before the enemy knows you exist. The mounted Scythian rides again in the guerrilla fighter who appears, strikes, and melts into the terrain. The English longbowman's spirit lives in the coordinated fire teams that can break and advance before it begins. Every time a sniper adjusts for wind, they echo a horseman reading the grass of the steppe. Every time they hold their breath before the shot, they recall an archer's stillness on an English hill. History has changed the tools. It has not changed the truth. The first to see, the last to be seen, the Scythian and the longbowman never met. Their worlds were divided by distance, by centuries, by language and gods. Yet they were bound by a single, invisible law, that to control the moment of death is to control the battle. In war, some are remembered for speeches or crowns. These men are remembered for the silence before the kill. The rider in the grass, the archer in the rain. Both gone, yet both here, in every hidden shot that finds its mark before the target even knows they are in the crosshairs.